Tony Houston. I'm the local history librarian here at Blodgett Library, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Your Story is Fishkill's Story. Today we're going to turn around it a little bit, and we're going to talk to Nicholas Chad Roth, who's the talented young man who's normally behind the camera for all of the episodes we've been filming. So Nick, does your story begin in Fishkill?
Yeah, naturally I was born and raised in Fishkill with my family. I actually was, in my preschool years, I used to go to the stepping stones right down the street here on Broad Street. And so after I would, learn whatever lesson that they had, my dad or mother would bring me to Blodgett Library, and I would be listening to this person named Peg Siebert, who would do these story times and crafts. This is actually a picture of me and Peg. This was 2003. One day I had the surreal moment, and I'm working with her in the back office, and I'm just like, wow, I'm filming the person who taught me these crafts, and I'm editing the videos that I learned when I was 4 years old. Then I became a volunteer, which eventually led me to being an employee, which led me to doing these videos and going back to the days when I would learn that stuff. So it's really cool, and it's just awesome to see that circle.
So where did your passion for film come from?
Whenever I came to the library, there was one DVD in particular that I loved taking out, and it was The Muppet Show, season 1 to be exact. So I would always, if it was on the shelf, there we go, I'd be a happy camper. If not, I would still have my smile, but I was pretty disappointed if I couldn't take that out. As an infant, as a child, Sesame Street, that was my favorite thing growing up. My father always says I would watch this same VHS tape every single night that I'd have to play. It was like bedtime stories or something. I think that was the title of it. It always stuck with me as growing up. I think it was just that movie magic or that charisma that those puppets had.
So what were you doing by middle school?
I always knew I wanted to go into entertainment. I was always an entertainer. I would, my grandfather growing up would always tell me about these knock-knock jokes and different jokes and how to make people laugh. I would do magic tricks, that was something that I did. But I didn't really know what I really wanted to do. And it was around the middle school years that I remember there was a movie that came out. It was the Muppet, it was like The Muppets. I think it was in 2011 with Jerry Siegel and Amy Adams. It was the reboot for the Muppet franchise because Disney bought the rights to them. And so that movie came out, and I was like, oh my gosh, I missed seeing Kermit the Frog, and I missed seeing Fozzie Bear, and all these things that I grew up with. And I said, why don't I make a puppet? Why don't I do that? I'm just gonna do that. And I did. It was like 12 years old, I made my first puppet that was supposed to be a bird, but it came out to be Frank Sinatra. And my father is coming up the stairs from work, my mom's home, and my sister and I are on the living room floor with, a needle in hand with, this thread, and we're just looping around, and he's just looking at us, and he's like, gosh, I didn't realize that we were in the 1800s, we must have went back in time or something. So I made a whole bunch more. Actually, I do have the one that I'm referring to, the bird that actually turned into Frank Sinatra. Now this puppet is, my gosh, I was thinking about before, coming in today to do this, but this guy is like 10 years old. Because this was around 2012? This is the first one I ever made. So it's funny to look back and see what you've done. This is the
everybody's
Elmo.
favorite.
Yeah, everybody's favorite red monster. Elmo. So, that's what I used to do back in the day. I was actually taking dance lessons at a local dance academy during the recitals and stuff. Since they had to do costume changes and the like, they had me for maybe a good 2 or 3 minutes just do my own sketch with these puppets. And so I would perform with them. I would actually go to kids' birthday parties, 1 or 2 year old birthday parties, and I would perform with them, and I was getting better as I went along. And so I reached out to a puppeteer down at Sesame Street named Martin Robinson, who performs Telly Monster, and Snuffleupagus. And so I contacted him and I said, hey, this is what I do. I make these puppets, and I'd love to meet you and come down to the set. So yeah, my family and I went down to go to Sesame Street, and we were on the street and we would look around and you'd see these monsters talking to you. And I met Al from Hooper's store. I mean, it was just a great community. These people who I was inspired by allowed me to go to the place where they film and to make that dream come true for me.
You had some pretty amazing sewing skills.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely did. Prior to going, they gave us an email saying, don't touch puppets. And so I said, okay, great. So I take out my Elmo puppet, and they say, hey, you're touching, no, wait, what's going on here? What's going on here? I'm like, no, look behind the eye. And you see, naturally there's a ping pong label there. It's like, no kidding, they were just so shocked that it was that quality. So it's just something that's, whenever I tell people, I went down to Sesame Street, it's like that's just one of the things that pops up, because they were just really, really impressed with the work that I did at that age.
So when you went into high schools, did your interest change? Were you still into puppets, or? Puppets
was really the big thing, but I didn't feel that it was the voice I was trying to convey. I was lacking something. And so in high school, this is where the story begins, really. First year of high school, freshman year, I'm going in, new school, new people. People are saying, oh, you're puppet, you're playing with dolls and all this stuff. And I had a girlfriend at that time. And so everything was like, all right, at least that's something normal. At least I have this girlfriend. Now there's all this chaos, at least I have some stability. Well, a month into freshman year, I find out that this girl that I was with cheats on me. And now I'm like, well, it's just chaos. It's like, what do you do? And I was in a predicament, I had to pull myself out of that rut that I was in. And I was like, well, what do I do? And so it was just weird how it all worked out. But nowadays, right, contemporary society, like these films, Marvel movies, DC movies, comic books have been on an all-time high. I never knew any single one of them. Sure, I knew who Superman was. He wore a blue suit and red underwear, but that was it. I didn't know anything about him. And so I said, that'd be cool just to learn who this guy is. So I go down to the local Walmart, buy this 5-film Superman DVD collection. And so I watched the Christopher Reeve movies, and the one that really inspired me was the Superman Returns with Brandon Routh. And watching the movie, and I said, what if we were still together? What would that look like? I got my laptop out and I just typed away, came up with a 40-page script, and I just go up to my friends who I met then at the high school, and I said, hey, you want to be in my movie? Hey, you want to be in my movie? And
so when you made your first movie, what were you filming with? Did you have a camera and the fancy equipment you have now?
The thing that I emphasize in my films is I want to get the audience to say, wow, look at that. Look how sharp that is, or look at that attention to detail. And so when I was making that Superman movie, I said, you know what? I'm 15 years old. I'm going to do this Superman movie with a whole bunch of friends. We're going to do it in like a year, and we're going to do it with an iPad.
Wow.
Bought the Superman cape, bought, these different costumes at Goodwill, and we made this short fan film of Superman, and it was a hit. And everybody, we showed it, we premiered it at the Roosevelt Theater in Hyde Park. We filmed a lot of the stuff at the library. Julie, the director, was so kind enough to say, hey, come in, we'll let you film and, do what you want to do. And so it was just cool to film in that place. Like I said, with Peg, I would come in all the time and see Mrs. Verzi around, but it was cool that now it was like this it was the beginning of the full circle. And so I would come to this place that I grew up, and I'm filming here. And
so when you're a famous movie director, are you going to have Blodgett as a cameo in everything you make?
Yeah, we could definitely work something out.
So where did your college career begin after you graduated from John Jay?
Yeah, so after graduating, I graduated from John Jay, having made 2 fan-made short films on these superhero movies, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do, which was the filmmaking. So In 2018, fall of 2018, I went to Dutchess Community College for Communication and Media Arts, which is just filmmaking, but a little cool spin on the name. And yeah, did that, graduated in spring of 2020 with a 4.0 GPA. So
congratulations.
Thank you. So something I'm very proud about. And yeah, it's just what I love doing. During that time at Dutchess, I was fortunate enough to be in a select student class. It's a documentary class, and you travel, you take our equipment out from the equipment office, you go to these different places, you interview people, maybe perhaps some well-known people, and you work on a documentary on the subject that you decide to choose or pick. And so I said, yeah, that'd be interesting. I mean, at first maybe I was a bit hesitant because documentaries weren't the way I wanted to go. I wanted to do more of the narratives and the fictional pieces. The first semester I was really fortunate enough to work with two talented young men who we worked on this documentary called Broken Media. And it's naturally about the media industry and how we're seeing the corruption and these different things inside of it that's happening. What is truth and what is fake news? I mean, it was just an awesome experience to go down to Boston and interview people there, and to go to New York City and interview people like Chris Hayes from NSNBC. It was just so cool to do what you really wanted to do in life. And then the next semester I produced one on the media industry again, just like a kind of a follow-up to that first one. And that one, Evolving Media, which I worked on with two other people, that one was nominated for the SUNY-wide Film Festival. Hopefully we'll get to see who gets the win on that.
So you've graduated from Dutchess. What's next? Are you going on to college? Are you taking a gap year?
I don't think it was the wisest decision for me to attend college at this time, because you don't want to spend all that money if you're just going to sit at home, online, looking at a computer screen for hours on end and not having that college experience that you deserve for that type of money. And so I'm just, I was just sitting in my room in March like everybody else. And yeah, I made another short film, but one that I am planning to promote more intensively, and this will be the first one that everybody really sees. Everybody really sees who NC Roth is, what I am about and what my voice is. So I'm very excited to see the reaction as to what people think of it, but all I can tell you is that it takes place in the 1960s. We filmed it during a pandemic, and we filmed it in 3 months' time. I'm very excited about that project.
So what you can't see is how Nick makes all this magic happen. You can't see all the high-tech equipment he now has with reflectors and lights and microphones and cameras, and it's really amazing when you see what we do during an interview and all the editing and how he puts it all together. It really, you see it filming it and you're like, how does it end up with what he ends up with? But he does an amazing job of bringing it all together.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I love doing it, and it's it's funny to be on the other side of the aisle, but I'm looking forward to see who else is going to be be here that we're going to interview. So I'm looking forward to the next one, and looking forward to continue working on these. It's been a pleasure, and I can't wait to see what the future holds.
I just hope he's not making a bloopers video, because there's a lot of those too.
Don't worry, that's coming soon.